What's going on, guys? Welcome back to review and discussion. Today we are tackling UnOrdinary episode 274. And honestly, this episode was fairly good. It was a good return for me. As you guys know, for those who've been watching, I was a little late to the party on these when it came to these episodes just because I was on break for a little bit. But this episode was actually really good to come back to. Honestly, a little shorter than I would have preferred, would have liked, but, you know, it's not... Well, okay, no. I didn't mean short. I mean, not... The chapters were good. I felt it could have been better, though, in my opinion. But for what it needed to do, it did beautifully, so I don't mind that whatsoever. Anyway... also for this recording and also probably for the one for episode 275, I might sound a little bit off just because I kind of shot my voice last night due to a concert I went to. Anyway, with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into episode 274. Now, episode 274 immediately kicks off where episode 273 ends, you know, kind of the standard when it comes to UnOrdinary episodes. Anyway, Kaden and Kuyo show up just to save John and Sarah from being sliced as a iced water guy just kind of like, you know, about to do the move on them. But Kuyo like kind of like breaks the ice with some daggers. And Kaden sees him and wonders who sent the assassin. And honestly, that's fair for him to not be sure who could have sent him. I think maybe it's possible that he does suspect someone in Spectre, but it makes sense that he's not suspecting Orin because Kaden hasn't been around for a lot of those conversations. Yeah, like he's some kind of partner with Layla, but she has asked him to step out of the room, and I don't think he's been around at all whenever Orin's name has been brought up between Sarah and Layla. So, makes sense he wouldn't suspect. It's understandable he wouldn't suspect Orin at all to be the one who sent the water guy. So, Kuyo then tells Kaden to get the two out of there while he distracts the assassin, and he then rushes at water guy, conjuring a katana-like weapon, and clashes with his ice blades. And then Kaden successfully gets to John and Sarah and teleports out with the two, even telling Kuyo to get out while he can. It's really confusing and really hard, actually, since they're both 2K names. Anyway, so to get out while he can, and he'll call him back later. And then he successfully teleports away. And then Kuyo continues to... Okay, actually, fuck it. I'm gonna call this guy Atlas for the time being until we get his actual name, which I think may be fairly soon. Just because he's using both water and ice techniques in his ability, and, you know, Atlas from Code Atom. Yeah. Anyway, so initially, when I was reacting to the episode and to the fight, when we saw cracks as Kuyo clashed with the guy and his ice arm blades, I thought Kuyo might have actually cracked and damaged the ice. But after Kaden teleported, but I was reading through it again. I thought Kuyo broke it, but actually after rereading, it looks like Atlas does it himself, kind of just because he kind of does it in a way where he slices, but he also looks like he's actually cracked it to prepare for his next attack, which is a barrage of icicles and everything. So, yeah. He then sends at Kuyo and, you know, threatens to kill him. Seemingly gets more serious. He then launches about 18 in total. I actually did count 18 icicles at Kuyo, who seemingly easily slices through all of them. And I say easily because while he is taking this fight seriously, he also kind of has that same attitude from when he fought Lennon way back when during Blyke's stunt as Nobody. He's smiling through the fight until he realizes that Atlas can evade his attacks with his water form. He kind of gets the serious tone of his like eyes kind of widen. He's like, oh shit, what? Kind of like how John and Sarah were caught off guard before too. So Atlas then freezes Kuyo up to his torso the same way he did to John and Sarah, and then sets another shot to kill Kuyo. It seems to be the same one he used against John and Sarah. The Kuyo then summons about 8 blades to break the ice and slashes his way free. And again, I counted. It looked about 8 or 9. And then tries to attack Atlas more, but, you know, just phases through him in the water form. And Atlas retreats into the sewer. That nasty ass. Gross. But Kuyo sees him and wonders who he is. And this is a bit tricky because Kuyo doesn't know that Kaden lied about Sarah being his cousin, but Kuyo kind of has already been brought into this in some aspect, in being like, you know, like meeting Sarah and everything, or being told about her and stuff. Actually, yeah, no, kind of meeting her. No, I don't think he's actually fully met her on yet. Anyway, point is, doesn't matter. Kaden also has to think of how he's going to explain this to Kuyo, and it is building suspense, because at this moment in time, we are pretty still unsure of what Kuyo actually is. Is he actually a superhero, or is he working with Cassandra? Honestly, I'm not sure. It does seem, though, like Kaden is just someone who at the very least doesn't mind helping out when he can. Doesn't mind helping out when, like, he sees that someone, oh shit, really is about to die. So, yeah. Who knows? I still do hope that, you know, Kaden is actually a good guy. Anyway, so meanwhile, Kaden arrives at Layla's office, and she's clearly annoyed that he's just teleporting in again. End of episode 266, start of 267. But he just teleports and asks for help, and when she asks what happened, all he can say is an assassin, and he then falls to the floor with John and Sarah. We then cut to Doc's apartment, and we can see that he's really taken a break from everything that's been happening, because the last time we saw him, he was clean shaven and everything, but now, like, we're seeing that he hasn't shaved in a while because his scruff is starting to come back. I thought that was a pretty nice touch, honestly, just to show, like, you know, some time has passed, or, you know, maybe just a few days have passed, however long it's been. But you know, definitely kind of like, looks like he's kind of like, you know, back to his old grumpy self for a little bit at least. And then when Layla calls, he tries telling her that he's taking time to sort things out, but she immediately tells him to come over because Sarah and her friend are dying. And this actually is another thing that I think is pretty nice that Uru has taken note of, because at least as far as I'm aware, as far as I've checked, Layla doesn't know what John looks like at this point. She's never seen him before. She knows him by name because Doc has talked about her, and Doc has talked about him, and Sarah has talked about him. But she's never actually seen John. And once again, that also gets brought up in the next episode, which I will touch on in that review and discussion. But yeah, you know, there's just a lot of little nice touches that Uru, you know, put in this episode that, you know, are pretty cool, and, like, you know, it doesn't really mind too much to me. I think if Layla did say Sarah and John, I don't think I would have minded too much. But now that I realize, oh, actually, no, this makes sense that she would say this because Layla has never seen John before. Yeah, just a lot of little nice touches, little nice things that Uru put in this episode that, you know, just kind of add to, like, you know, the little bit of storytelling and everything, the keeping everything consistent too. So yeah, honestly, yeah, this episode does feel kind of short. I think it feels short just because when we get fights in UnOrdinary, we expect them to take, you know, the whole episode, and they're always so grandiose and awesome. But this fight, honestly, was, I would say, 2 god tiers against each other. Okay, so this is something I wanted to talk about. I should have written some more notes on, but I'm gonna go ahead and say I do think it's entirely possible. So okay, so I'm gonna use this as examples. So I do think, let's compare Blake versus Lennon. So Lennon at the time, during with the amplifiers, was a 5.3. Let me check that. Yes, 5.3. With the amplifiers, he was a 5.3. And Blyke was only a level 5 at that time. And Blyke clearly struggled greatly against Lennon. And also, you know, with the backup that Radix had been giving him from afar. Uru did say that the higher levels go, the bigger the gap between any level or any, like, you know, variable does get. So I do still think that Atlas definitely at least has to be a god tier. I do still think that he is a level 6. I think Kuyo, honestly, I feel like he might at this point maybe be a 6.5, just because we saw how easily he was able to go up against Lennon and destroy his shields, which look pretty similar to Arlo's barriers, and we saw that Arlo conjured a disc-like shield again when he was dampened. So I definitely think that Kuyo is a level 6.5, I'm going to say. Meanwhile, I think that Atlas is probably a level 6.3, the same level as Arlo. Just because, again, we've seen elemental type abilities before with Remy and Ray, but this is something completely on a different scale. So if he's not if he really isn't as strong as everyone else, I think he should be as strong as the weakest god tier we've seen at this point in the series. And I'm 86% positive that that's still Arlo that we've seen, 6.3. So maybe he's a 6, but I definitely think he is a lot stronger than Remy. And also, this is a really interesting fight. Something else I wanted to talk about that I forgot to wrote down. Shit. It's a really interesting fight because I do think this fight, like I said, it doesn't seem like Kuyo was taking this fight seriously until he realized he couldn't really get a clean hit on Atlas. But what I want to say is, I don't think Kuyo was taking this fight too seriously, because up until he only had to like use more blades to break through the ice, he didn't summon another sword like he did against Lennon. He just stuck with one sword the entire fight. Maybe had the fight gone on longer, he would have resorted to using another sword, but he didn't up until that point. But I think it is pretty clear to show that Kuyo is definitely stronger than Atlas at this point. I think they are both still god tiers, but I think there is like a very big gap in their power. Now, while that I do believe that to be true, I really like that Uru presented this fight as, hey, this guy's clearly stronger, but he's having a hard time against this ability because he can't get a hit on it. And I like that we got to see that. Like, you know, someone who's there's clearly a gap in level, but the fight isn't necessarily one-sided. It's clever. And of course, Atlas probably knew that he wouldn't win, so he had to get out of there, but he still got out fairly unscathed, I would say. I would say based on how John and Sarah weren't disrupted him and he broke into water, and also Kuyo was able to get a few clean shots in his water form. But it seems like he still didn't take any damage from any of those attacks. So he got out pretty unscathed, but he still knew he had to retreat. So, yeah, it was cool to see a fight where I think it's pretty obvious that it's a one-sided fight, but it wasn't a guaranteed victory because guy had a fairly intangible form that couldn't take damage. So, yeah. Little ramble there at the end. Sorry about that. But yeah, it was something that I forgot that I really wanted to talk about too. And honestly, now that I remembered that aspect of this episode 2 from the fight, I do think I want to rate it higher than I did. So this episode, for as short as I think it felt, I would say that episode 274 is probably, honestly, I think this might be an 8.5 episode. Just because the fight was cool. Uru did a lot. There was, like I said, there's a lot of little Easter eggs Uru put, like, you know, just to keep things consistent. And also, the fight, now that I've kind of overanalyzed it a little bit, it's a lot cooler than I originally thought it was. So, yeah. That's my thoughts on episode 274. Let me know what you guys thought down in the comments. The review and discussion for episode 275 will be out tomorrow. Like I said, I do want to keep these videos separate. and there won't be a reaction tonight because Uru is still on break for this week. But that being said, I will try and get something else out for you guys, and I will also be streaming some more as well. Some gameplay for Splatoon 3, and maybe something else if you guys want. Anyway, that's going to be it for this review and discussion. Yeah, 8.5 for episode 274. And yeah, I will see you guys back soon for a review and discussion for episode 270. 274 is at 8.5. I will see you guys soon for a review and discussion for episode 275. Yes. Okay. With that being said, guys, I hope you guys have a great day. And as always, see you, Space Cowboy. Hey guys, Editing Jay here. One thing that I wanted to also bring up, but I forgot to talk about, we also kind of basically get confirmation in this episode that Ponytail is Kuyo. I mean, I don't think anyone in the right mind like had any doubts or anything when it came to that, but you know how Uru likes to not say anything a lot of the time. She likes to keep secrets. Totally fine. But yeah, we do kind of get that confirmation that like, yeah, these are the same guy. Like, let's be real, because there's just two people with the exact same ability and look the exact same. Like, come on. Anyway, yeah, we got that confirmation about Kuyo. He's Ponytail. We all knew it. But now it's just kind of confirmed basically. Anyway, see ya.